Hello man, today we're gonna talk about how you can have the best sex of your life in 30 minutes or however long in this video. So let's jump right in. But before I want to tell you something that is very important. You know, when I was like 15 years old, that's when I started my sex life, and it was something beautiful. The girls that I was connecting with, they were very special to me, and because of that I always had in mind how important was sex in life, because how it made me feel, but most importantly I recognize it as this beautiful opportunity to connect with your partner, to experience love in a different way. However, nowadays that's not actually what I see in most relationships. Men and women are very unhappy nowadays. It doesn't matter if they're in a relationship or not. There's a phrase that for me encapsulates most relationships and their sex life as well, obviously, and that is that most people now don't have sex or make love. It's like they're masturbating with someone else's body. And I don't know about you, but that for me is disgusting. Mainly because we pass from having sex as this beautiful experience, as one of the most enjoyable things in life, having the opportunity to connect with your partner in such a beautiful way. And now it has become for men and women like this dopamine shot in your brain, just like chasing pleasure and nothing else. It's like, oh yes, ejaculation, and that's it. That's actually very lame. I think that we can do it way better. So first of all, my name is Jesus Noya and I help men to last longer in bed and resurrect their sex life, to become sexually dominant and be more attractive. All this while avoiding the deadly mistakes that I made through my sex life that were actually a lot. So after this video, you first of all will avoid the pain of a mediocre sex life where you're having sex with your woman is your dick is like half hard, half soft. You're not enjoying it at all. You know, it's like a chore for her and you at the same time. And you may not be aware, but that's actually how most people have sex. And also you will be able to have sex like an animal, like it's supposed to be, but you can barely breathe and she's like screaming your name while you guys are doing it. I want you to be aware that if you're experiencing any pain like premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, performance anxiety, and others, if you want to be able to fix all that but also fuck for hours like a beast, leave her biting her lips anytime that she thinks about you, and especially become the man that blows her mind and body, I can help you to achieve all that fast. So go click the link in the description right now. Okay, and after you're done, let's continue. What we're gonna cover today is help you to experience sex in a way that you never did before. And even if some of them may sound obvious, the reality is that almost nobody put it in practice. So you have fixed yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, choose the right partner, teasing her, going primal, and lasting long enough. So with fix yourself, let me tell you that a lot of the people, when they want to improve their sex life, they always try to like focus on the physical things, you know, like how to play with her breast, like the best way to touch her clitoris, best position and all that kind of stuff, right? That's how most people approach it, and that used to be myself, and that's a big mistake because most of the enjoyment and the experience of sex itself, it doesn't come from doing like the physical stuff. It plays an important role, but most of it actually comes from the mind, from the psychological part. This is bro science, but if I had to put a percentage, it would be like 90% psychological and just 10% physical. So if almost all the experience actually comes from the psychological part, we should be focusing on that, and that's why it's so important working on yourself as a person. The person that you are is a reflection of how your sex life would be. This actually applies for almost every action in life, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. But more than that, you have to realize that the person that is having sex is you. So if you're a loser, you're also gonna be having sex as a loser, and women actually fail this all the time. So to avoid this and reach the next level, you have to focus on the stuff that will make you that person capable of having great sex. And that's why you have to be a high performer in all areas of life as much as you can, in the way that you exercise, in the way that you work, in the way that you interact with people. When you're full of energy and you're so passionate in the way that you do things, you're always like this vibrant person, this charming man. You're gonna reflect that in your sex life as well. If you're a man that is always full of confidence, always, for example, like walk with pride, with an open chest and a big smile anytime that you go out, it wouldn't be a surprise that when you're pounding gears, you're gonna do it in the same way, with confidence, with energy and passion. The more you work in this stuff around yourself, the more you're gonna reflect it in your sex life. Actually, I was in the gym the other day with a friend and we were laughing because his father actually understood this very well. They were having a conversation about a work project and he basically didn't want to finish it. So his father asked, son, when you have sex, do you leave things halfway? Are you there giving everything from you and with the girl screaming and then you just leave things halfway? No, right? When you're doing something, you finish it. So do the same thing with your work. If you get used to leave things unfinished, you're gonna be treating women like that eventually. So go and finish what you have to do. You have to see your life that way. Now I want you to be aware of the outliers, and it's that people that don't work in any of this and still have like great sex. The thing is that it isn't as good as you think. You know, you may hear from time to time girls talking about that guy that is an asshole, and when you look at him, he's that total loser. Like he may be even living with his mom and everything, and still he's able to like fuck a lot of girls, and women are actually enjoying it in the way that they're describing it, right? However, that comes from like the act of pleasure, and eventually those girls that are having sex with that guy eventually ended up hating him and associating that experience with like such a disgusting and filthy way, because you can avoid seeing the elephant in the room eventually. If a guy's a loser, that's gonna hate in some moments, so don't pay attention to the outliers. Now let's look at the things that you have to fix, mainly that are the mental part, the emotional part, and the physical part. So with the mental part, this is very straightforward. Like whatever you carry in your mind will be reflected in your sex life. If your mind is not clear, if your mind is not in the present moment, and you have stuff that is actually still like ruminating inside there, in the exact moment that you're gonna have sex, when you guys are getting naked, even if you're not thinking about that, it's like your body and your soul emanates that energy. Girls can see this in your eye by chance. They have like a detector for that, and they're gonna be asking you. So if you have things like anxiety and trauma, or you're nervous or insecure, that's gonna fuck up at most of the experience, and it's actually gonna be reflected in other ways. That's why, for example, you can get hard sometimes because of how nervous you are, that your body starts to like literally send signs to your dick to not go up. It's like saying that this is not the right moment, that this is not what we should be thinking about. So if you're not mentally clear in the moment that you're going to have sex, that's going to take out like a bunch of what it could be, right? That's why I want you to embrace the traits that will actually help you. For the things that you see on the screen, anxiety, trauma, nerves, and insecurity, first of all, for this you have to fix those problems and bring the other traits for you that will help you to perform better. Being secure and confident of yourself, being calm, being present. The more that you are in those mental states where you're calm, the better your sex experience is going to be. And that's why a quiet mind and spirit are the ultimate weapon for having sex. Now you may think that the things that I'm saying here are kind of obvious, like yeah, I know that anxiety is bad. The problem is that almost no one actually focus on this. People are always anxious, insecure, they always bring a lot of stress to sex, and actually they're using sex as a way to release stress, and that's not how it actually is supposed to be. It can help you, but you're not seeing that you're actually putting that stress in there. That's why most of the time it's shit. But when you have that quiet mind and spirit, when you actually feel good on yourself and you can put that in the way that you penetrate a woman, that's when thing actually goes to the next level. It doesn't even have comparison. And you see this, for example, in like the Indian people in Hinduism, like they bring a lot of spirituality and mindfulness to their sex experiences. That's why actually for them sex is divine. It's not a coincidence of why there's a stereotype of the Indian sex guru, but those guys are actually pretty basic. You know that the mental part actually plays a huge role. Besides the Indians, you also have guys like David Deida and all the spiritual guys. If you ever read his books, like most of the work is actually around sex. He always brings up the sexual parts because they actually both related. And it's not that the spiritual people are just very horny, it's that the mind and your spirit is actually very connected to sex. And the better your mental state, the better it's gonna be your sex life. And it's not a surprise that one of the most important books for sex performance and positions is Indian, and they talk a lot about this in there. So man with mindfulness and a clear mental state, with a good connection of the spirit and the mind, they always gonna have better sex, superior sex. Women actually feel this a lot, and that's why they always cheat with the yoga teacher. It's not just a coincidence, this is connected. Now emotionally, in the same things that you reflect things with your mental state, your emotional state will also translate in specific actions, and this is actually a little bit more notorious. So for example, when you're sad, happy, angry, or relaxed, however you feel right now, you're gonna have sex basically in the same way. That's common sense, no problem, right? But the problem is that sometimes we mix the wrong feelings. So for example, when you're very mad or disgusted by a woman, right, and for any reason something happens there and you guys ended up having sex, that kind of sex can actually go wild. When two people are hating each other, and even if they're a couple, for example, they have an argument, the way that they start to have sex is way different of how it usually is, right? And they may enjoy it more than usual. You may have a picture in your mind of how it may be, right, where they try to like physically hurt each other. The thing is that it wasn't actually the hate or the disgusting feelings that made them have better sex. It wasn't that. It was the fact that they were like more animalistic, more primal, and they didn't have like this barrier to hurt each other. That's why they were having better sex. It wasn't because of the hate or the negative feelings. Because if that was the only thing and nothing else changed, then sex would be shit. Because you can even feel like aroused for this person that you're seeing naked. It's like disgusting for you. Your dick wouldn't even be able to go hard. But people usually mix the wrong feelings with other actions, and that's why I want you to use the right ones. Bring the right emotions that you know what that will increase quality of the sex way way more. Like even from the hate part, for example, take the feeling of disgust out, but keep like the primal sense, like this euphoric way that you're gonna go all in or you're gonna be wild. Take the negative part out and keep the ones that you know are gonna be useful for you. That's with your internal emotions, but the way that you go with your regular interactions with people, this would actually translate in sex and in your relationships as well. If you, for any reason, you have like detachment or you're not able to trust people that much, you have things like emotional dependency or excessive attachment, once you're having sex with someone, you will reflect that in some specific actions, right? Some girls, for example, would want you to like see them totally naked. They don't like to like have the lights turned on when you guys are having sex. Some of them don't like that much physical touch or hugs. Some men just have sex and go right into the shower. They don't like to even see the women. People is usually like that because they have a lot of internal problems. They have so many emotional stuff that they haven't solved that when they have sex, they just kind of avoid doing these things. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it can reflect in some hot ways. Like for example, the girls that have that issues, bro. I don't know about you, but for me that's kind of hot. But it's not actually healthy, right? As we mentioned before, we should try to aim to use the right traits. You can manipulate your partner to change herself, but you can do it with you. And when you bring like more of this healthy vibe of more of this wholesome person to the whole relationships and to sex, then she's gonna be able to be more open and eventually heal the things that she's going through. And you can bring that support. That's why very simple, man, just heal and improve. Everyone has any kind of problem, but nobody put effort in improving, right? Almost everyone has been going through some shit. I have a lot of traumas, probably you have a lot as well, and almost everyone that you know have something, but people don't fix it. People are not even aware that they have something, you know? So if you start to take part of this healing process, that's going to differentiate you from other people, and it's going to make sex way better than average. Because very simple, you unlock the parts of your life that are hurting, you know, those traumas that are there like stored, but once you finish with them, once you work on them, then you start to experience things that you didn't think was possible. So real life practices for this, like very straightforward. As I said, bring awareness to the problems. It's very easy. Like just be conscious that it's something that is making you suffer right now. It could be the stress at your job, it could be the relationship that you have with your parents, financial stress, insecurity, some bullshit that happens when you were young, those kind of things, you know. Just be conscious that you have a problem. Now, as there's so many mental health problems and traumas that could happen, I can give you like one answer to all of them. So I encourage you to read like a philosopher, in the sense that read as many books as you can about the kind of things that you're experiencing. You know, like you have some traumas in the way that your parents raised you, or you have PTSD. Literally read books about it, investigate about it, and do the practices that are in there. A lot of them are going to be actually very practical, and they're going to tell you the way of how to actually fix your stuff. As there are so many different problems, just go by your intuition. But the more you read, the better practices you're gonna be finding eventually, and that's going to help you to fix those things. And when in doubt, you can go with other people or mentors that have been going through the same things as you, and they already solved it. You could literally pay for that. They're gonna guide you to where you want to be as soon as possible. And finally, connect with your partner for this. When you're actually going through your healing process and improving the things that have been harming you, that's going to make you into a better person in all aspects, right? Not only for your sex life, but for all their very important areas as well. And when this is happening, connecting with your partner and talking about it, and maybe even bringing her into the process so she can improve as well, it's going to make things way better, because you're not both like this healthy couple, and the fact that you guys are healing together and improving things is going to create a next kind of bond. Besides that, if she's actually going through the process and actually improving, the quality of sex is also going to go up, as the things that used to be a problem before aren't there anymore. Now, when it comes to the physical part, it's not necessarily the way that you interact with your woman, but more about yourself. We're talking about fixing yourself, right? And when you fix yourself physically, that's when you reach to what is called the top 1% of men, but in this case it's like the top 1% of sex performers, of lovers, of that kind of man that is like the dream of every woman. The only there to reach there is when you level up physically as well. And it's kind of obvious, but when you're hot as fuck, when you're like muscular and jacked, then you are like the whole package, right? You have everything that she desires, and that's when you become the guy that she starts to fantasize about. Because girls don't actually fantasize about, like, you know, these kind of skinny guys or the chubby guys or the fatty guys. When they think about their perfect man, their perfect lover, they think about a man that is like very sexy physically. All those traits like clean hair, strong jawline, nice eyes, nice skin. Obviously that all that is going to help, right? And it's not only about genetics, or it's like something that you're born with. It's more about how you manage your health and how you present yourself, the way that you take care actually of your body. That's the most important part that's going to level up your attractiveness. And when you do that, you have better sex for a bunch of reasons. First of all, because girls are way way more into you, they're more attractive, they're more wet, they're gonna fight for you, and they're gonna have more passion when you guys are doing it. And also because it levels your confidence. You feel like this man that nobody else can compete with. And when you put that into the bedroom, when you put all that confidence when you're pounding her, that's when sex is incredible. Another important point is that when you're actually healthy, when you're like taking care of your body properly, you're gonna also have a very good hormonal health, and that's gonna translate in your testosterone. And testosterone is so crucial for men. There's so many processes in your body where testosterone is like the main character, that the man that is lacking on that, they're just like a different kind of person. A man that has low T, a man that has low testosterone, it's gonna be always like this wimp, this chump, this loser. And obviously it's gonna reflect that in their sex life. But not only that, your whole sex drive, really how much you desire to have sex and how much you perform in it, that's all related to your testosterone. So if you have unhealthy levels of testosterone, bro, that may be one of the killers of your sex life, or your main constraint that is not letting you pass to the next level. A good healthy level of testosterone should be, I would say, at least 700, man. When you improve yourself physically, also your cardiovascular level helps a lot in the way that you're gonna have sex. Because if you think about it, sex is like doing cardio, right? It's more like you're using your lungs and your heart. It's like aerobic training. And if you have a very good cardio normally, you can translate that in the way you pound her. Because instead of feeling tired over there and having to take like breaks from time to time because you can't breathe properly and all that, that's actually very lame. If you want to give your whole potential, then having a high performance resistant on cardio will help you a lot. And also muscle mass is going to help you a lot, not only because of the attractiveness or the way that girls are going to see you, but also because the more muscle that you have, it's gonna be reflected in your overall health. There's actually a good correlation in the amount of muscle that a man has and how good is going to be his longevity. That's literally like the more muscle that you have, the more years you're gonna live. That's kind of crazy if you think about it. But something curious is that it also gonna be reflected in your overall health. And your overall health, it also includes your hormonal health, and that's gonna be translated in the way that you have sex, because almost all that comes from the hormonal part. And besides that, it's going to give you a lot of size and strength. That's going to make women feel aroused. You're gonna be like a superhero that can live here and make any kind of things that you want with her. It's like you're 100% in control. So as a quick summary, with top health, you're gonna have top attractiveness and also top sex performance. There's no other way. If you jump this step, you're still gonna have good sex, right? Because the mental and the emotional part are crucial. But with this is how you reach to that 1 top percent of lovers, to the man that is so sexy that women will feel stupid of reject or not having the opportunity to sleep with you. So please give it the importance that deserves and work on it. And a lot of people don't take care of this. For some of you, may be obvious that you have to like exercise and eat healthy, right? But really, a lot of people don't do it. Seriously, a lot of people live their lives and they don't exercise and they shit their whole life. They live in suffering constantly and they change nothing. And that's sad. So as most people have terrible health, especially hormonal health, and if you're screwed there, if you're not taking care of that, then your sex life is gonna be shit. It's straightforward. That's why a lot of people start to suffer like erectile dysfunction. They don't even have libido anymore because they haven't been taking care of their bodies. And even if it sounds mean, in some way there's a bunch of men that deserves that because they knew what they had to do and they still didn't. And it's just 2 simple steps. You don't have to do like this whole biohacking or buy a bunch of supplements. It's not necessary to do that at all. All that you have to do is to do exercise, any kind of exercise you want, but resistance training like calisthenics, CrossFit, weightlifting, any kind of things that makes you grow muscle and take the muscle to failure are actually great. And the second step is just eat a proper human diet. What I mean with this is that you have to eat what you have been designed to eat. And I'm not going into detail right now, but humans are designed to only eat meat, animal meat. What you should be eating is mainly red meat and nothing else. Beef, lamb, goat, eggs, maybe some dairy if you want. That's it. Any other food, specifically plants and processed food, they're going to harm you. They're going to help you, your hormones, and with that, your sex life. So if you want to fix yourself physically, man, eat a proper human diet, a carnivore diet, and exercise as much as you can. With that, in a couple of months, you're gonna feel like never before, and sooner than later, you're gonna look like a Greek god. I just saved you like $1,000 of any fitness program if you actually follow the advice, so you can thank me for that later. Now, it's not rocket science, man. Look at the 2 guys in the picture and ask yourself, which one do you think is gonna have better sex? Who's gonna be able to have better sex with a woman, and who's gonna be able to experience better sex for himself? Very easy choice. So work on that. Now you may be thinking, as I mentioned before with the outliers, I know other people that don't have any of this and they still have great sex life. People that are very toxic emotionally, people that have terrible physical health, and they still able to perform. And they always fucking get a women, and they actually look very happy. Women even fall in love with those guys because how great lovers they are. Okay, let's talk about that. So The problem with other people is that they can have great sex and still feel like crap. I met a guy, for example, that was like this. From the girls that I know that were sleeping with him, this guy apparently was a total animal in sex, and very beautiful women would be into him. So from the outside, it looked like he didn't need any of this, right? Like all the rest of his life could be awful, but sex for him was great. Do you know what happened to those girls eventually? They started to feel gross and eventually like repulsed. Why? Because even if sex was great, the emotional part and the mental part was absolute garbage. And it's something funny is that even if the pleasure part was good, there were times where he wasn't able to perform properly, right? And that's what the girls used to say, you know, because he maybe feel sick from time to time, or because of the drugs that he was taking. Those kind of things ended up affecting. And next thing with that people is that they're not close to their potential. Even with all those things that are affecting them, they're still able to have good sex. Imagine if they then add all these to their life. If instead of not taking care of the important stuff, they would be working on it, that's when they're gonna reach to the next level. And when sex actually feels like a divine act, like something pure, like an astonishing as beautiful experience, they're never gonna be able to experience that if they don't work on those things. And with those guys that have like great sex, I have to tell you, man, that a lot of men, they actually lie about their sex life. Most of the time it's not actually that great. They lie about their body count, the way that they do it, how much they last, because it's like risking how people see them in a way, right? We base, and that's something primal that we have in our brain, we as men base a bunch of our self-respect with our sex life, and to be more literally, with our dick, with the size, with the energy that transmit, with the erections, with all that, like all that is actually very important to us. And when we have a problem, it's super difficult to speak and talk about it. And even when they are unsatisfied or unhappy, they're not going to say that. They're gonna have a problem and they're not talking about it. They're just gonna leave it pass, waiting for something magical to happen. And specifically those guys that have the problems, those are the ones that are going to be saying like they make girls scream, like they last so much in bed, like all girls desire them. Those are the guys that are usually terrible. And girls actually do this as well. There was a girl that I met that she was like sexually open, right? Like she was always talking about it and the guys and this and all that, like very specific. And in her words, the guys that she was sleeping with, they would be amazing lovers, right? Like great having sex, and she was enjoying it a lot. She would say this to the other people, but when we were like in private with people that was closer to her, she would tell how cheated those guys were, how bad they treat her, not only emotionally but like sexually. Those guys were wimps. They didn't know how to give pleasure to a woman. Just imagine like those guys, as I said before, like those kind of guys that just masturbate with someone else's body, right? Like the way that they do is like they just put the thing inside and go like on the day, ejaculate, and that's it. They have sex like NPCs, like AFK all the time. That kind of sex is awful, and she was having that all the time. Problem with her is that because of how much attachment she had to those guys, she like brainwashed herself to believe that they were good lovers, and that's why she was speaking about those guys like that. But obviously eventually she reached the point of starting to see the reality. And finally the outliers will eventually crumble. Like if they're not taking care of their physical health, their mental health, and their emotional health, all that is going to compound and eventually explode. And you may notice this. You remember the guys that were in high school that were like always fucking girls and everything? Sometimes even the girls would talk about them. Where are they right now? How they look like? How their sex life look like? Because from almost all the guys that I remember, they're either like fat, in a very bad relationship. It's very obvious that they have sex like once a year, probably in his birthday. And with the ones that are still like kinda good or decent, I'm pretty sure that they eventually is going to stop working. So don't even look at the other people. You don't want to be like the other people, right? And speaking about the other people, choosing the right partner is so crucial in sex, but a lot of people, again, they always ignore this. The main problem with casual sex, and that's why it's so empty, because a bunch of the actual experience of having sex, and I'm talking about the real sex, the actual experience, not that thing of putting things in, putting things out, a lot of that comes from choosing the right partner. So something super important is that sexual chemistry, it's actually more important than looks. You may think that you're gonna have better sex if you are with a woman that is sexier, that she has like bigger ass, bigger tits, and a more beautiful face. I'm telling you, man, that's actually very far of how things actually are. And the guys that fuck know this. There's gonna be some times that you may even think that the girls are kinda ugly, but there's gonna be something in the way that you have sex that is going to be so powerful in some way. And that actually happened to me. I'm not pussy destroyer myself. It's not like I've slept with 100 women, but I can actually tell the difference. I slept with a girl one time that she has like the body of a model, right? Like put her body on Playboy and she would look professional professional, right? She was like that, and things were decent and everything. But there was the next one that she was a little bit fattier, she was a little bit chubbier. I actually like that girl more, and because of a sexual chemistry, bro. Holy shit, I can't even describe it with words, right? So be conscious of this. Sometimes those girls that look like more beautiful are not actually going to be the girls that you're gonna have the best sex with. The best sex that you're gonna have with a girl are gonna be those where sexual chemistry is up. When you feel like this, aroused for each other like naturally. And when that chemistry is not there, even the hottest and sexual girls, they can still give you terrible sex. There's gonna be a lot of girls that they don't put like their part. A beautiful body can't compensate those kind of things, because if not, you would only buy a doll, right? It doesn't make sense having someone that doesn't have like that human feeling. When girls are like that, her vagina could literally be this, like a literal hole. There's not that much of a difference. And as a lot of people ignore this, that's when the relationships goes to shit. That's when people break up, because the sexual compatibility is not there anymore. And you know that when a couple is not having sex for whatever reason, that's very correlated with things start to crumble. So if you don't have sexual compatibility since the beginning, it's not actually worth it building a whole relationship. You should be choosing beforehand someone that actually enjoys having sex with you and that you enjoy having sex with her. Some homosexual people know this, that a top can be with a top and a bottom can be with a bottom. And something that I want to implant in your mind is that you can actually build this up. You can actually build sexual compatibility. Some traits are gonna be kind of difficult with some women, and that's when there's nothing else to do. But in general, when you're a man that is masculine enough, that knows how to polarize gears, that knows how to dominate in the right way, and actually have a good sexual performance, you're gonna be able to build sexual compatibility and make like your partner more compatible with you. With this, I'm not saying that you should try to like change your partner or whatever. I'm saying that the more you are like a real man, like a real masculine man, and you demonstrate this in the way that you have sex, the more chances you're gonna have to polarize women and putting in the right frame. Just a very quick example from my personal experience. Just imagine a little bit the picture in your mind of the bad girl. When those girls are having sex with you, just by default, they're gonna be a little bit like dominating, right? And it's not necessarily because they enjoy it more. To be honest, I would say more that it's because of some trauma that they have in their personal life, as we talk in the section of the emotional part. So those bad girls, by default, are going to try to dominate you to see if you're a bitch that they can play with and eventually take the lead. Some guys are even into that. For me, that's disgusting, to be honest. I don't think that should be the right dynamic. That if you pass this test, if you're able to show that you're the one that's going to dominate her, sex is gonna be wild, bro. When you put those bad gears in that submissive position, there's only a few things like that, right? So that's what I mean, that you can actually build this up. Now, when you choose the right partner, there's a principle that you're gonna have, is that the better your relationship, the more that you connect with that person, the better it's going to be the sex, and vice versa. If you guys have better sex, more high quality sex, the more it's going to improve your relationship, because both are like almost the same thing. In whichever one you put effort in, the other one is going to improve. So it makes sense that if you want to have better sex, you work on building things with your partner. When that happens, you guys can trust more each other, attraction increases, the chemistry is way better, and like even better communication starts to happen. And with this, obviously, love plays a huge role. Even if love for a lot of people is a little bit of a big thing, I would usually describe it of being secure in your heart that you actually care a lot about this person, that it really has a lot of meaning in your life, and you want to do everything for her to be okay, to be better. And sex with love will be by far, man, the best sex of your life. I had the chance to experience this before, and I'm telling you for real that it's one of the most beautiful experiences that you're ever gonna have in life. When you experience sex with real love, with your woman, with your wife, with your girlfriend, you're gonna see the contrast and eventually realize that when you have sex with people that you don't have that connection with, there's not that much of a difference of using your hand, man. Again, literally just use this. Put your thing in a hole and it would be that much of a difference. Now, going more into the specific practices, if you want to have wild sex, teasing here is something that will help a lot. So, you know, to tease a woman is like playing with hair in a way, in this sexual and sexy way. So excitement starts to happen and she will like eventually crave having sex with you, and that passion that you guys have for each other. If you know how to take advantage of that properly, that's when things are going to go wild. The best way to tease her, in my opinion, before having sex is just being playful and dumb. Not dumb like brain offended, like saying any kind of stupid shit, but more like kid would do in a sense. You know, like bothering her, being sarcastic, like giving her touches in her arm. You do this and also be playful and sexy. Tell her things about her looks, about her body, around small details that would build like this environment of you guys being relaxed and in contact with each other. A very specific tactic for this is something called tease and deny. In Spanish is something called tirijada. You give her like a little taste of whatever you guys are doing and then just take it out completely. You can do this in a physical way, for example, like passing the fingers close to her shirt and taking out the fingers suddenly before reaching to any specific spot. Same thing around her legs. You can be like very romantic out of nowhere and then 10 seconds after that change it to a total different thing. You can give her a passionate kiss, but instead of making it very long, like just 1 or 2 seconds, stuff like that, right? It's giving her stuff where she's like melting and feeling a pleasure. But before getting to an important point, you just take it out. So that excitement and that anticipation keeps like building up and going up and up. And this is one of the most powerful things to get a girl wet, because the more psychological excitement you bring to her mind, the more that she's going to like crave you being inside of her. She's going to be expecting that. Now, when you're teasing her, even before or during sex, you have to calibrate. Calibrate is literally just use the right moves in the right moment. And you do this stuff also depending on the girl that you're interacting with. With some girls, for example, I could do like the trick of passing my hand around their neck and that kind of stuff, right? Or maybe even go down close to her breast or like their stomach. But that's depending on the right moment and the right places. If I do that when it's not appropriate, when she's not in the mood, then it's just going to screw everything up, right? And the same happens during sex. If you do something incorrectly in some moment, like being dominant sex, for example, it's going to ruin everything. So with girls, sometimes I would say like, for example, a kind of a sarcastic joke, an offensive joke to them. And because of that, they would start to like move faster or bite me and do more wild stuff, right? That's a good way to tease her. Bad way to tease her would be, for example, like a friend that told me that her boyfriend, for example, used to do like dumb faces when she was giving him a blowjob, and that would totally turn her off. Like seriously, she hated that. She said that it was adorable when he would do it in other occasions. She totally hated that during sex. So calibrate and use the right stuff in the right moment. Now, some special attacks that will help you a lot during sex, and I'm giving you all my game here, so please use it wisely. Get her to give you a blowjob for as long as possible. And I didn't know this was a thing until the next guy mentioned it, and it's only made sense in my mind because it was true. Even when I used to suffer premature ejaculation, I would have better sex if the gear would spend some time before just giving me oral sex, because it helps a lot to put the right framework. When a girl is sucking you off, it's like an act of submission. It's you taking the lead and being more dominant. So that's one of the things. The second thing is that when she's doing that, she's getting way more wet, because it's like a direct sexual activity, but she's not getting penetrated yet. So it's like she's expecting it way and way more, and the excitement just go up and up and up. The more she does this, the better. It's not like you're going to have her for an hour until she's tired or bored, but try to have her there for a decent amount of time. And when you do this, you grab her by the hair and you start to control the pace, because a lot of time girls actually don't know how they're supposed to do it or how fast they should go. So at least when you grab her by the hair, you can control her pace and try to last as much as possible. And finally, a pro tip: some girls are a little bit more into this, others don't, but I'm telling you, biting her, like literally putting your teeth on her skin, it's something that is able to tease her a lot. It has a very good balance between pleasure and pain. For some girls may be a little bit odd, but if you know how to do it properly, they're gonna be able to enjoy it. Try it the next time if you don't believe me, and then tell me how it goes. Now, when you actually do the trick, I want you to go primal. Going primal is like try to have sex in this animalistic and wild way. Like literally don't hesitate in going hard and pounding her and going fast, because that kind of sex, that kind of animalistic sex, is the one where the experience jumps to a next level. Now, when you do this, you have to scale up the speed and the intensity, like how hard you go and how fast you go. Don't just put your dick inside and try to go as fast as possible, because you're probably going to harm her, because there's a bunch of bad things that are going to happen if you do that. You're probably going to bust very quick, she can get harmed in some ways because she's not wet enough, or it's just not the right vibe and it's going to be weird in some way. Women aren't like a switch that are like on and off, right? They don't work like that. They're more like a scale, like something that you have to build up and eventually reach to the top, right? But you have to build it first. In the same way as cultivation, use the right things in the right moments. So start normal and eventually increase the speed and the intensity until reaching animal levels. And with going primal, man, I want you to hear this very clearly. Every single girl, all of them, they like this kind of sex way more than what's called like vanilla sex, or that kind of romantic sex where you guys are like missionary and kissing each other slowly. Even the girls that you may think that they like that way more, like the cute little small girls, those are usually the ones that likes more this kind of sex, right? That enjoy way more a man that can pound her like there's no tomorrow. You'd be surprised of how those girls that sometimes look like angels, they like actually this, they love it. And that's why I'm putting this image of that guy. Sometimes girls may look like this at the front, but in reality it's a total different thing. So to go primal is just a couple of simple rules. First of all, don't bitch out, aim to go primal, because even those little girls, those little angels, will lose respect for you if you treat them safely. If you in any moment hesitate and you start to ask if she's okay, and you start to tell that you don't want to harm her or anything, or you're kind of scared of going hard, they're going to treat you like a bitch. They're going to know you're scared, and from there their attraction will start to go down. Even if they don't think that like consciously, like being aware, that's what's actually happening in their subconscious mind. So don't worry and still go in and do your thing. You also have to apply calibration and don't harm them, right? Like even if you're going primal, you're going hard, you're slapping her ass, you're biting her and everything, when you're actually going wild, okay, the girls can take a lot of that, but don't reach to an extreme point where she's actually like getting harmed, right? When she stop feeling pleasure pain and start to feel like real pain. This is gonna come a little bit with experience, but in general, listen to your body and listen to her body. That's the best way to do that. And finally, going primal is not necessarily just going hard. It's not like, again, as I said before, it's not just putting your dick in and doing this as much as possible, right? No, it's not any of that. It's having sex like a pro. It's knowing where to trust, how to do it, when to go faster, when to slow down, when to change positions, when to look at her face, knowing the right things to say. It's all that, right? Sex is way more like a dance. It's not moving your feet as fast as possible. It's giving the right steps in the right moment. And I put in the image of Cornhole because a lot of men actually do this terrible when we talk about going primal, because they just use what they've been seeing in porn, and that's way far of reality. Like it's not even close, man. Like what you see in porn is just terrible. Don't do it like that. First of all, you shouldn't be even watching porn. I hope you're not doing that, but for whatever you remember, just don't replicate it, alright? It's not going to help you. Finally, something that I want to mention, especially one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest constraints that is not going to let you have the best sex of your life is lasting long enough. Most women aren't satisfied with their sex life. Men neither, but that's because they're not able to have sex with the women that they like. But with women, it's because most men are trash. They don't know how to perform properly. And one of the main reasons for that is because men don't last long enough. They don't last enough for the women to be satisfied. Like the average sexual relationship, bro, is 5 minutes. What can you do in 5 minutes? You can't do shit. So imagine the girl like getting ready for the whole thing and being very excited, and then the man just finished. The girl's like being there like, what? That was everything? That was it? This is what I've been craving for? In general, it's usually very pathetic. Now, sexuality is not necessarily about how long the session lasts, right? It's more about how good it is, how passionate and intense you are. But even with that, you can have a quality. You can perform properly if it's only like 3 minutes or 5. As I said, that's pathetic. It's very difficult to enjoy something in there. And actually, something like premature ejaculation, you may think that it's just lasting a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, right? But in reality, it's not being able to control your ejaculation, not being able to control when you come or bust. It could be 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long it is. If you're not able to control your ejaculation, that can actually be already premature. And most men that I know, they don't have that skill, but they take for granted that that's how things are supposed to be, that man usually just lasts 5 minutes, or that if gears move too fast, then it's normal for them to come. Let me tell you, bro, that if you're not lasting as much as you would like, or as long as she would like, then it's a problem. It is what it is. It is a problem. You should be able to have total control of your ejaculation, on how long is the session and the way that you want to perform. And as I've been mentioning during the whole video, men in general aren't aware that sex is a skill that you can improve, that you can level up. There's so many things that you can do that can level up and take your sex life to the next level. But people, especially men, always ignore that, always. And when it comes to your ejaculation and how much you can last, for sure that you can do something about it. It's not like if you're a man that only lasts 5 minutes, or like me, for example, that you still have all these seconds, you're not doomed to be like that the rest of your life, right? It's up to you to do the right practices that are going to take you to where you want to go. For this, you can work on your mental state, on your pelvic floor, on your kegels, on your breathing, the control of the arousal, the mindfulness that you put in sex, the way that you communicate with your partner to do this, controlling your pace, improving your cardiovascular activity, a bunch of stuff that are going to make you last longer and that you can master at a decent degree. Now that you're conscious and that you have awareness, because I just told you, please really focus on this, and especially if it's something that you're struggling with, start to take action. I'm gonna be making way more videos about the specific practices, so that's coming soon. And now we're talking about lasting longer, actually, you don't even need to ejaculate, you don't even need to bust or come to have really good sex. And as you're seeing in the second point, non-ejaculatory orgasms are a thing, right? And are actually superior. It's where you're having sex and you don't even need to come to reach to that point of ecstasy, pleasure, and connection between your mind and body. The problem is that most men are really linked in their brain like, okay, orgasm equals ejaculation, and it's not necessarily like that. It's actually way far off what actually is. But in order to experience that, you have to like relay the signals of your body, and that takes a little bit of effort, and that takes a little bit of effort and time. But when that happens, the difference is going to be humongous, right? It's going to be huge. And as you see in the graphics, for example, the first one is like the normal orgasm, right? Like you go fast and intense and then cool down a little bit, you go fast and intense and then cool down a little bit, and it reaches eventually to the point where you can't like hold it anymore. And that's it. And from there, what is not showing in the graphics is that it literally just goes down like one time and it just stays there. It's like Candace said, and you can't control it that much, right? I mean, it's still an orgasm, kinda, but it's not like super enjoyable, right? You know that it only lasts like 5 seconds for most men. However, the non-ejaculatory orgasms, as you don't reach to this point of like finishing, then this is what happens. You start almost in the same way, you know, like going hard and then cooling down, going hard, cooling down, and eventually when you reach the point of orgasm, you can literally try to keep it there as much as you can, but and as you're not busting, you can repeat the same action and again. There's gonna reach a point when it's already too much for your body, so you're gonna have to cool down. But once you feel ready and you start to escalate, you can again go up and up and up. And if you have total control of your ejaculation, you can repeat. And if you want to buzz eventually, you can do it. And it's going to be way more enjoyable in comparison with how it usually is. But you can also decide to not do it. And I can stress how important this can be. So if you follow all the steps that I just told you, if you actually implement these things in your life, the sex that you will have from now on will feel mostly like this. It's going to be like reaching this point of illumination, like alignment, like literally opening your third eye, right? It's going to be like this aligning and wild experience that doesn't have comparison with anything else on earth. But there's something more important that you're gonna be experiencing, and that's true love and connection with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your woman, and bond together like you never did before. And I talk so passionate about this because the way that I've been able to experience sex, I know how much of a pure and divine activity it is, and I can stress how important it can be. I really wish for you that you can experience that as well, so you can have the best sex of your life. And again, if you want to achieve all the things that we just talked about way faster and easier, I can totally help you with that, so go and click the link in the description right now. Let's go! But besides that, that's everything from me, man. I really hope that all this helps you and that you can start to put the advice in practice as soon as possible. Later.